Hello, Erie! Welcome to our second summer project space residency artist talk. I'm Eric Barry Drazen, and I am part of the team working on developing Feed's programming. Feed is a 50,000 square foot media arts center located in downtown Erie, Pennsylvania. We support artists through access to specialized tools, equipment, space, and financial support, as well as through the exhibition and archiving of media art. Tonight, we are celebrating the opening of Bello Bello's Between Hue and Hair with a talk by the artist. Bello just completed his MFA at the University at Buffalo, where he worked extensively with Paul Vanus at the Coalesce Center for Biological Art. I first met Bello in 2021 when he was a resident at Coalesce. In thinking about Bello's work, it immediately opens up a multidimensional discourse. While the piece being presented here tonight is intensely autobiographical in nature, I find that it provides more questions than it does answers. While I will leave it to Bello to discuss his biography and the space that the work inhabits for him, I would like to frame my introduction in relationship to this idea of immersive art and critical technology practice. In technology art, one of the most prominent tropes is that of the interactive mirror. From Roy Ascott's early interactive computer vision projects in the late 1960s to Daniel Rosen's wooden mirror in 1999, we find that we are innately fascinated by the reflection of ourselves mediated by technology. In the past, this reflection was often the byproduct of an idealized relationship, one where technology makes us better versions of ourselves. Now, as immersive and interactive art becomes more mainstream, we see spaces like Meow Wolf popping up that offer the public access to fun and entertaining forms of immersive technology art experience. Simultaneously, the proliferation of social media spaces that offer the form of the magic mirror are also pervasive, such as Snapchat and Instagram filters. And yet we've also find in 2023 that idealized relationship breaking down, and indeed it may never have existed in the first place. That idealization was a projection, one conditioned and reconditioned in a feedback loop by legacy frameworks, histories, and politics of violence, genocide, racism, and slavery that we as a society have barely started to grapple with. The utopian vision of the technology mirror erases the ways in which the marred history of Western colonialism is embedded into these very technologies with which we try and see our idealized reflection. What I find so important about Bello's recent work is that he offers us an interactive mirror that complicates the narrative. This is a technology mirror through which he asserts his identity and allows for the audience to deconstruct their relationship with it and themselves. It allows for the audience to gaze at him, and yet his mirror deconstructs the gaze itself. This is a prismatic and emergent notion of identity, conditioned across borders, across pronouns, across politics, and across aesthetics. He playfully problematizes monolithic forms and asks that we critically examine how we are both constructing and constructed by these identities, histories, and ideologies. Indeed, this is a very subversive form of an interactive mirror. And so with that in mind, it is with great pleasure that I introduce Bello Bello.
Thank you, Sugar. All right, hello everyone, good evening, welcome. I'm Bello Bello, and this is Hue and Hair. I would like to say thank you to Eric for such a beautiful and generous introduction, and thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Feed, thank you, Erie, it's been such a good time. So let us begin. So I kind of started thinking about this as a way to deconstruct identity, like my identity, and is a self-portraiture, like I said, right? And so all the different fragmented parts that you see here, I associate with how we create personalities and identities. It's always different masks we're wearing, different codes we're switching, et cetera, et cetera. So the way we're gonna do this is I'll just walk you through it, and we could have that talk that way. Please feel free to ask any questions in between. It's not formal at all, okay? So in the beginning, as it were, This, you could all come closer too, please. Will be a guided tour. So in the beginning, this is a portrait of myself that I took on a very difficult time of my life. I come from Nigeria, born and raised in a very traditional conservative family. And, coming out as a queer person was kind of this strange, complicated space that didn't exist then. And so that was very difficult. Anyway, I took this photo because there was this powerful night that I knew it would come back one day in my life to kind of be a part of this show. Okay, so we'll move along. I'm using a lot of AI and machine learning in this piece because from my history and experiences with technology, these are also spaces and institutions that are racist or homophobic or this or that, just like anti-middle-aged white men in Silicon Valley is the other, right? And so I started playing with AI a little bit more and using that technology as ways to discuss the gaze onto me and the gaze that I project onto you all, right? Like what Eric said about this feedback loop is a loop. Like you're looking at me, I perform a certain way, I'll look back at you, you'll perform a certain way, and this keeps going on and on. So I'll demonstrate this first one here. So when you look at this screen here, you could read the poetry, and some parts of this will then be activated. In between here, there is some cowrie shells, and the history of that is really interesting. It's about value, and back during the slave trade, and also sub-Saharan slave trade, up until, I think the 1800s, they used cowrie shells in a one-directional economy system. So they would trade 15 pounds of 15 pounds of human flesh equaled 1 pound of cowrie shells. And the way they brought them was there were ballasts in ships. It will help weigh the ships down, right? And so they will come dump off trunks and trunks of these shells and exchange it with bodies and bring in those into the New World. I found that really interesting in particular because I'm from northern Nigeria, and it's that awkward moment you're reading a book and you realize that it's a lot more complicated and a lot more nuanced, and everyone kind of is implicated one way or the other. And I learned that people in the North certainly participated in this type of activity, right? Moving along. These pieces here that you see are what you call the Hausa Allo. So it's a tablet, and that's how you would learn Arabic and or alphabets, etc. So imagine a little notebook, and you use charcoal to write with that. And when you're done writing your Quranic verses or prayers, etc., you would just wash it off, and then you will ingest the water. And that was a way to kind of, solidify the word of God inside of you, or like knowledge of the universe, etc., etc. And the way this one works, it's guided with this one. Maybe someone else's face. Can I borrow your face, please?
No, you got it. I saw it.
Oh, okay, cool. So if you could stare at this center one here. Okay, I swear it's not magic. Okay, thank you. It might come back in a little bit. But if you stare at that for a second, it says, I was there before I arrived. And that is pretty much talking about how this identity of blackness existed here for me. And I didn't know I was Black till I came to America, right? Like I was House of Fulani back home. And so it was interesting when I started reading a lot more theory and understanding these things, like Fanon and Baldwin and Audre Lorde and all these great canon people all discovered their blackness when they were abroad, right? So that is what that piece is about. And when it turns on, you could see this is a simulation of that water, of the washing of the charcoal and then the ingestion of it. Okay. This next piece here, this is what melanin production looks like under a microscope. And so underneath all of us, we all individually possess melanin, right? And that is what separates us, is our skin and our hair, right? The point of the show. I'm interested in that in particular because you could find melanin in so many different things in nature, but somehow humans, we've used that like as a weapon, right? Excuse me. There's also elements of religion in here, as you could see. Like I said, I'm Muslim. And breath is an important thing. We were taught that when God created Adam, he made him out of soil and then he kissed him. And when he kissed him, he breathed life into him. Well, what that did was it created a dependence on God, right? Like we have to exhale to inhale, and it's like this loop that just keeps going on to kind of just remind us that, like it's more complicated than that, and we're all deeply connected. So with this, I'm kind of offering it as a place to exhale without the need to inhale. And so I'll blow into it now. And so what happens is now you could see my bacteria and my melanin interacting in this petri dish setting, kind of creation of skin. And it is releasing bubbles into space because this is supposed to represent each of us, right? Like we're beautiful, we're contained by, molecules of water and things, but we're also so fragile. And any second we're consumables, right? And so that is what you see there. Down below, I've decided to elevate these everyday objects that we use for our hairs. So these are hair picks and twist combs that would use to make dreads or to make our hair a little bit more kinky and to take up more space, etc. I decided to make them in this scale because as it is, these are utility objects. They're not, I don't want to say, I'm trying to take these things and make them into high art. What I'm trying to say is elevate these everyday things and put them in these institutions by a Black person for Black people, right? Like type of this being part of the canon in that way. Any questions so far? Okay, I am blazing through this. Yeah, so I would like to read this now. It says, longing for intimacy, longing for community, fortified by a nomadic experience. Between the world and me, my darkest lair, sweeter than fruit, so black, so beautiful, so easily penetrable, by bullets, by hate, by music, by rain, by love, by wonder, and the limits of plasticity. What I mean by that is I had to be Black in order for most of you to be white. So what that meant is my humanity turned into plastic, right? Like you had to be able to mold me and shape me and create me. That is why you perform when you do. That is why you walk a certain way when you do, right? A lot of it is about protection. It's not because we're afraid of white people. It's because we need to protect ourselves as well, right? Yes, so that is Hue and Hair. So please come check it out. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm around. I'm sorry?
Oh, I just asked where the title came from, and you can ask.
Okay, so the title comes from Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And what that is a 100-year rewrite of James Baldwin's, what is it? Going to See the Man. He did a new version of it, Ta-Nehisi Coates did, as a response to that, like 60 years later, writing it to his son. And so I kind of took that idea of, well, what is between Hue and Hair is, it's bacteria, it's melanin, is dreams, is music, is like all these other things, as I enjoy food and red wine, et cetera, that all still exists within me, right? I'm not just limited to Black skin and kinky hair. Is your question?
There was the second from the left, the white box. What's going on there?
So what's happening in there is the 3 petri dishes in there. It's skin and melanin expression with skin bacteria, with my skin bacteria, with different regions of my body. Right. And so that is what is documented in that third box in. And the rest of these empty ones, I'm here for 1 more week, and I plan on adding more to that. As it is now too, though, it's really interesting because it ended up being this future versions of identity that I haven't even discovered yet, right? That will be a part of that. And how will that then be negotiated? How will that fit into this space? How will that then interact with itself? So, thank you. I'm sorry?
You grew and changed with your piece.
Yes, I did. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That is it. Okay. Oh, thank you.
I was like,
Yes. Here, I'll do more. There you go. Perfect.
Not too close.
Maybe take a few steps.
performance or
Shane, not too close, please.
All right, thank you, everyone. There's fabulous wine over there. Please go help or go get some. Yes? Yes, please. Yes, thank you. Whew. Hi, you made it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Job.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You tired?
Yeah, I just like blasted through that.
I'm sure. You did good.
I got a little anxious there. I forgot half of what I was saying.
No, you did good. You did good.
Thanks.
You said enough. You said
Thank
the
you.
important stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go freshen up. I'll be right back. Yeah. Thank you.
It was good.
Yeah?
It's very good.
Do you see me sweating my...
You're sweating. I know. You're schwitzing.
Yeah.
You're schwitzing.
It's because I chugged a glass of beer before I started because I was so anxious. But I think it went well.
I mean, you were very. I mean, I don't think you have anything to worry about when you talk about your work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of like, you know, I mean, I get being anxious about talk, but especially when it was funny. I had this experience when I was with Stephanie. Remember she told you like, we were at that panel together, and I treated it like an